And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Saturday morning's flying weather showing a band of IFR here across the Bering Sea and just south of Nunivak Island into northwestern Bristol Bay, and then also along the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula area, some marginal VFR into Kodiak Island. VFR here, Gulf of Alaska northwestward into the Bering Sea and up to the Brooks Range. IFR here in the eastern interior, IFR for the North Slope, and IFR for the southeast coast. And then for Saturday afternoon, that area of IFR pushes over toward the eastern border there for the Panhandle, otherwise marginal VFR from Yakutat down to Dixon Entrance, and areas of IFR for the Copper River Basin. Big area of IFR up here over the northeast part of the state, including much of the Brooks Range, North Slope, and the eastern Arctic coast. Band of IFR here, again across the northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island, in across Nunivak Island, and now up into Bristol Bay there, into the Aleutian Range with better conditions for Kodiak Island, kind of marginal there, but VFR for Adak Yatka, eastern Aleutian areas, up into the Alaska Peninsula. And then for Sunday morning, this area of IFR shifting northward a little bit, now covering Kuskokwim Delta up to the Yukon River there, and all on Nunivak Island, into Bristol Bay, up into the Kuskokwim Valley now, and over toward at least southwestern Kodiak Island there, into the Shelikof Strait area, Kamishak Bay, and up to the Alaska Range. IFR now showing up in Resurrection Bay, Prince William Sound area, and marginal VFR south and east of the, or south and mostly south of the Alaska Range there, to a lesser extent over the Copper River Basin. IFR up over the Brooks Range, North Slope area, eastern Arctic coast. VFR here along the central and south coast of the Panhandle. And then for Friday or Sunday afternoon, marginal VFR for the southeast coast with IFR over the northern quarter of the Panhandle. IFR North Gulf Coast here. Marginal VFR basically for south central Alaska, Kodiak Island, and still IFR in a band here from Bristol Bay up across the northern Bering Sea, and a smaller area of IFR from the morning hours there. As you can see, Sunday morning kind of diminishes to the central North Slope area with VFR for the western Arctic coast, and a big area of VFR here, eastern Aleutians up to about the Pribilof Islands and Atka Island as well. And for the passes, Anatuvik and Adigan down to IFR for the day Saturday for both passes, and Lake Clark and Merrill, one more VFR day coming up for Lake Clark, Merrill, and Rainy there for the western Alaska Range. Windy also staying VFR tomorrow. Isabel calling it marginal. Same thing for Mentasta, marginal VFR. Tanita, VFR. And Portage, VFR. Chilkoot and White looking IFR right now. And for the freezing levels, about 2,000 to 6,000 feet here across the southeast coast, and at the surface still south of the North Gulf Coast, south of Kodiak Island, but up just north of the Pribilof Islands. And from there, icing, we've got some considerable moderate rime icing here for the Yukon Flats area up toward the southeastern Brooks Range. Otherwise, another area of possible moderate rime icing here over toward Misty Fjords, Stewart, Hyder, and those areas. And then a band of lighter icing here from Bristol Bay in across the Barren Islands, Fognak Island area there. And the jet stream here showing it's basically southeast winds across the northern Bering Sea at about 80 knots, otherwise pretty light over the interior and the Panhandle. The Pacific jet here south of the Aleutians, and moving on to 9,000 feet. Low pressure roughly over the Tanana Valley there. Northeast winds 35 to 45 knots to the north of that center. And then here for the Aleutians, 50-knot westerlies there into Adak and Atka. And for the southeast coast, most of the stronger winds here toward the border and into northwest Canada. Light winds for the southeast coast and the Gulf of Alaska at 3,000 feet tomorrow, as well as southern Alaska here. We've got northeast winds, 35 to 55 knots there over the central interior out to Norton Sound, and a little stronger there, 55 knots there for the western Brooks Range area, 35 knots out of the east there for the central and western Arctic coast. West winds 55 knots for the central Aleutians. Turbulence, look for moderate turbulence there. Adak Yatka, west to Shimian at 2, St. Lawrence Island, and the Western Brooks Range.